Hey there, I'm Benjamin from Loves Data. In this video, you'll learn about triggers in Google Tag Manager. I'll cover what triggers are, how triggers work, and how to configure them in Tag Manager. Triggers allow you to control when tags are fired and not fired on your website. For example, you can use a trigger to track clicks on a particular element in your website, like people clicking a link promoting a special offer. Let's get started and look at triggers in Google Tag Manager. Triggers allow you to tell Google Tag Manager when you want a tag to be fired. Google Tag Manager listens for interactions on your website. These interactions are called events, but they're not the same as events inside Google Analytics. For example, Google Tag Manager knows when somebody clicks a button within a page on your website, it knows when a page is loaded, and even if an error occurs. These are all different types of interactions that Google Tag Manager can listen for. You can then configure a trigger based on one of these interactions in order for a particular tag to be fired. You also have the option of going a step further and adding a condition, which is like a filter. For example, if you had a red button and a blue button on a page, you could use Google Tag Manager to listen for the action of a button being clicked and then set a condition so that only clicks on the red button fire your tracking tag. You can also use triggers to prevent tags from firing, but you don't have to get that advanced if you're just starting to use Google Tag Manager. There are lots of built-in triggers inside Google Tag Manager that allow you to fire tags on the different types of actions users are performing. Built-in triggers allow you to fire tags when a user clicks on something, after a certain number of seconds have passed, or when a user submits a form. These are just some examples of interactions that Google Tag Manager can listen for automatically. But you can also use events that are not built into Google Tag Manager. You can use custom events to track other actions. For example, if you wanted to track people hovering over a particular promotional message on a page, you can send a custom event when the mouse hovers over the banner. You can then make use of that custom event within Google Tag Manager to fire a tag, for example, to send information to Google Analytics. Let's walk through how interactions, events, and conditions work together. Google Tag Manager is listening for an interaction to occur. This could be any interaction, but let's use the button example again. So when that interaction happens, the click on the red button, Google Tag Manager will check to see whether the conditions you have specified have been met. Continuing our example, we only wanted to track the red button and not the blue button. The event is a click and the condition is for the red button. If both conditions have been met, then we can trigger the tag. The tag has been fired. If we were to click on the blue button, the event happens, but the condition prevents the tag from being fired. Conditions are defined within Google Tag Manager using rules. These rules decide when to trigger and not trigger your tags. We start by telling Google Tag Manager where to look in order to know if the condition has been met or not. This is the variable. In this example, we can see the variable is the page URL. So we'll be checking to see if someone is engaging with a particular page on our website. We then set the operator to tell Google Tag Manager how to compare the variable against the value. In our example, we've set /blog/ as the value, which means we only want to trigger this tag when someone is viewing blog content on our website. Here we can see some of the different options available when setting up our trigger. To configure the blog example, we select page URL, which is our variable, and then we choose contains and then enter /blog/. If the URL contains blog, then the trigger will fire. You can also add multiple conditions to your trigger. It's important to understand that the conditions you add to a trigger must all be true for the tag to actually fire. If any of these are not true, then the tag will not fire. In other words, conditions use an AND logic. So in this example, both conditions must be true in order for the tag to fire. All of the conditions will be evaluated at the time the event occurs. That means when the user clicks. That's when Tag Manager will check the page URL and check the referrer. Any other conditions we've put in will also be checked at the time the event occurs. If all of these conditions are true, then the trigger will fire. Otherwise, it will not fire. Once we've created our triggers, we can use them with our tags. In most cases, you will use triggers to tell Google Tag Manager when to fire tags. This is what we call a fire on trigger. But you can also use a trigger to block a tag from firing. You can also apply multiple triggers to the same tag, so if any of those triggers fire, then the tag will be fired too. So you can use multiple fire on triggers. Let's say we have one trigger that says, fire this tag if the user has viewed the blog page and if they're coming from Google as their referrer. And we apply another trigger which says, fire this tag if someone is viewing a product page. In either of these situations, the tag should fire. Remember that only one of them has to be met in order for the tag to fire. If you want to get more advanced, then you can also apply an exception trigger which blocks a tag from firing. If you use an exception trigger with other fire-on triggers, then the exception trigger will always override the other triggers. So that's how you can use triggers inside Google Tag Manager to control when tags are fired. You can create triggers based on a range of different interactions that take place on your website, giving you the flexibility to fire tags on everything from page views, form submissions, and other interactions. And remember that if you apply multiple conditions within a trigger, all of those conditions will need to be met in order for the tag to fire. How are you using triggers inside Google Tag Manager? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, then please like it so I know to make more videos like this. And if you're interested in learning more about tag management, check out my other videos and my Google Tag Manager course. See you next time.